BitShares is a world-class blockchain like Bitcoin with a digital currency platform boasting enterprise-level scalability and throughput with separations of power and self-governance baked in. Need the power of a blockchain with the stability of a dollar? We invented it and tested it for 3 years. Want to make a loyalty token, coupon, or shares in your business? We have you covered. Wish to add world-class development? This tech can fund your work. Whether for an everyday entrepreneur or computer-savvy code guru, BitShares provides tools to empower a world of unapologetic innovators to wield and share value with a level of freedom once thought impossible. Meet a community of such innovators every Friday at 2 p.m. UTC, led by Chris Herring and Fuzzy, to play a role in the evolution and advancement of this state-of-the-art project. Welcome to the BitShares revolution. You just leveled up. Welcome everyone to BitShares Hangout on the Beyond Bitcoin Network. Today is Friday, June 9th, 2017. We're joined by a bunch of BitShares files and crypto files who have kind of gotten into the DEX space ever since the old days of Mt. Gox and all the goxing that has occurred in centralized exchanges since. So with that said, our community is generally a bunch of staunch advocates for decentralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges that scale and solve the problems of governance that that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies have been struggling with for quite some time. Now, because of that, we have a community that actually has somewhere in the realm of $130 million ready for worker proposals and for buying into other chains, perhaps. Many options. But we do have a lot of cool things coming up because BitShares is rising and becoming very well noticed in the ecosystem. So a lot of the people who are in these Hangouts have been here for quite some time and have been here during the times when very few people even knew that BitShares existed. So if you're looking for a place with people who care and have been here from the very beginning and have historical context in addition to experience, join our BitShares Hangouts every Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. UTC. Now with that said, we have created a little agenda for today, and our community members will be talking about this. I will be moderating, and my name is Official Fuzzy on Steemit. So the topics are going to be the price increase this week, Hero, Mogul, there are no worker proposals currently, and then vetting of witnesses, and finally buying into EOS. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started with the price increase. What are you guys thinking this week? Is it feeling a little bit better watching what we knew would eventually happen, but that we were on the very early stages and it almost felt like it might never happen at times? How do you guys feel about it?
Well, I saw a post, I'm not sure who posted it on Steam, but it was more of a testimonial. It was the kind of thing you would want to put in the marketing piece that says, I was a perfect example of somebody that didn't believe in BitShares, and now I'm a total believer. It was just so well written. A short little letter from somebody, and they discovered, the whole idea of a decentralized exchange. They did research on it, and they ultimately are setting their sights on BitShares now after going through Lisk and one other one, Waves. Waves and Lisk is what they went through beforehand, and they said, well, I made some money on them, but they're not the real thing. I mean, I found the real thing now, and that's BitShares.
Yep. And do you want to get into a little bit why those aren't the real thing? I mean, I could talk about it, but everybody here is pretty much an expert in this stuff. So let's go ahead and feel free, anybody. What's the difference between BitShares and Lisk, and then BitShares and Waves? Because I can... Oh, go ahead.
I'm no expert on either of those two, but from what I've heard from other people that have talked about them and have done the research, is that they're not truly decentralized. That there's a lot of even in our case, we have some measure of centralization because we're still too new. But I think our level of centralization is far less than Lisk and Waves.
Well, one thing that struck me about Wave, for those who are new to the crypto ecosystem, it's very fast, but and they like to talk about how fast. But the problem is they have centralized order matching, which means that if I'm the person who's running that service, I can manipulate the market. And if we are, if we're trying to get into decentralized exchanges, yes, Waves is a little bit better than a centralized exchange, but how much better is the question, right? So with that said, we also have there's Waves and what was the other one? Dang it, Lisk. Lisk is based on BitShares 1.0. So all of the scaling issues that Bytemaster talked about back in those times, they're going to have the same problems that BitShares 1.0 diverted it from by upgrading to a better code base and into graphics. So where we stand now is, yes, Lisk is original Depos. It's just written in a different language. I believe that's JavaScript. I'm almost positive it's JavaScript. Now, that's the one value proposition I will give it, is that it gives us the ability to open up more people into the Depos ecosystem as far as the idea, the basic concept of delegated proof of stake and coding with a language that is pretty well known. However, they have 10-second transaction times. They don't scale like BitShares does. So all of these people who don't realize, I think, are going to eventually be wishing that they had. I'm glad to hear that these people who are approaching you are saying what they're saying, because it kind of makes me feel kind of like the Ethereum people who are saying, yeah, I'm cashing out of Ethereum for EOS.
Joey asks, wasn't Lisk the JavaScript Ethereum alternative? Well, again, I'm not going to claim perfect knowledge of it, but I think Fuzzy's characterization is probably more accurate. Basically, a BitShares 1.0 derivative, and that's the philosophy. They may be trying to go through the decentralized type of thing that Ethereum is, but I don't think they'll achieve it to the same level that Ethereum has, or certainly not to the same level that BitShares is doing its thing.
Yeah, I know that they brought on Charles Hoskinson at one point in time to advocate for it, because it was almost like it's almost like an Ethereum hedge using BitShares technology, because let's face it, BitShares technology, even the 1.0 technology, is leaps and bounds ahead of most cryptocurrencies in terms of what it can do. But yeah, so with that said, though, in addition to the market cap, I don't know if you guys noticed, but BitShares volume is like it's currently at 163 million volume right now.
Well, I can tell you from running a bunch of witness nodes, 4 witness nodes on the BitShares network, that I basically downgraded the witness software to the previous version, concerned there was a memory leak, because the increase, I've got 32 gig servers that are running on the edge. Some of them. Now, it's really funny, because when you look at the memory of each client of the witness node software, the specific software, it's not that great. It looks good, actually, but when you look at it from the whole platform, which that is affecting, it hasn't gone into swap space yet, but it's darn close to it.
Wow, and that's at 16 gigs?
16 and 32. Oh, the 32s are better, but I've got to revisit this. I've had so much going on to try and keep up with all this stuff that I've got to figure out exactly where all this memory is being used, because if you look at just the application itself, it does not look like it's using a ton of memory. But when I stop the application, then the memory does not increase anymore. So there's a direct relationship between the increase in the platforms, the OS memory, and that of the individual running client, and I've got to figure out what that connection is.
Yeah, keep me up to date on it, man. We can update the community about it, because if these things are going to help people, you can also get paid for updating the community on Steam, right? Just for updating them.
I won't get into the details that G Chicken is asking. That's something that's more suitable to a private conversation in the witness channel. Although I have to say that there's so much going on in the peer plays. The witness channel is almost worthless now because so many lurkers and people are in there that are not witnesses. That just want to talk about it, that are interfering with the communications between the witnesses. That's not as strongly going on in BitShares, but it's difficult to get any kind of conversation about these things going on in the BitShares witness channel right now.
Yeah, please keep us up to date on it, because this is a pretty important issue, right? But speaking of the witnesses, do you guys mind if we go into the vetting witness category then, since it seems to stream so softly into it?
Sounds good to me, but I'm doing so much of the talking, I'm going to let some dead air space here for me and let other people chime in on this. I'm certainly willing to talk about it if nobody else is.
Just warming up.
Go ahead, Londini. Well, I don't know why there's such a lack of interest in this, but I mean, one of the things that I observe on the peer ramping up in the peer plays witness is that there's an awful lot of people that want to be witnesses, and we have an increase in BitShares. I think we're up to 27 witnesses in BitShares now. So there's a lot of people that want to do it. Of course, it's understandable with the price of the coin being so high and all, but we don't have any way to vet them. And I got into a conversation with one of the Chinese witnesses, a witness still. Fairly lengthy conversation, tried to be encouraging, but at the same time, he's got a reputation problem to overcome, because when he first started, he was not able to produce a reliable witness piece of software, witness server. And so he got 8,000 missed blocks, so he was not reliable at all. And so it tainted my view of him. But the conversation really helped to address that. He has not lost that many since. He's got on top of it. But rather than doing that in the public network, it should be done in a test net so you don't have any kind of disruption, or it really messes up our governance, because when you see people missing that many blocks, you do not trust them. I mean, I don't trust them. So you want them to become proficient before they get to the public network, and doing that in the testnet is the best place to do that.
Maybe you answered your own question. Maybe we let people become witnesses on the testnet, keep the testnet guaranteed up and running all the time so people can mess around on it and play around and hack around on it, and pay them tokens that can be redeemed for BitShares, at a diminished rate. But that would create a fertile little playground where we could say, oh, this person has reliably run a test witness for X amount of time, and has been this efficient, and you literally could have like a list of the top based on various metrics.
It's a great idea. It's just, and I think I'm in fact, I've got a machine that I slated for this very purpose. I used it for the Peer Plays network for the time being, but it will not stay in that role. So yeah, I think that's a perfect idea. And Xerox, who's not here now, mentioned that he has got a testnet running in BitShares Europe. So I'm going to join that one with this node, and maybe we can get that started. So I'd like to see some other witnesses chime in, if not here, because I don't see a lot of them present here. But I hope to get some more interest in this, and so that we can do that, because it's really an important thing to accomplish.
We could even have it where you become a witness for X period of time, and the testnet, the people who win the testnet every round, being the most effective and efficient witness, get to replace certain people, and you just rotate out. There's all kinds of different things that could be done, but I will say this. The cool thing is that it kind of shows how reputation does help to solve that nothing at stake problem, right? Because reputation is very important, and trust in a space that's the wild, wild west is like water in the desert, right? So reputation is a big thing, and the blockchain kind of enables us to solidify the representation of that, of how people look at us, right?
I agree. Reputation is. I think that's the other things, like the Dash network uses a collateral system for instilling trust into the people that run their network and the master nodes. Well, ours is based on trust. Our collateral, if you will, for witnesses is the reputation that you have in the community. What have you done for the community? It's been that way since the very beginning of BitShares. I'd like to see that exemplified and strengthened, and I think this is one way it could be done.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of cool stuff that we can do, and the very worst, having something like Joey said, gamifying it and making it like a fun place for people to learn. It's going to help other chains in the future, because let's face it, the larger the pool of skilled and talented witnesses, the more chains are going to be able to exist, which is just going to benefit us, especially since we're going to be trading most of them, right?
Look at it this way. It's excellent EOS training.
Definitely. Well, like we are sitting here about 14 minutes in. What about Hero? Do you guys want to talk about Hero next?
Actually, I think a better segue than Hero would be to go into the buying into the EOS.
Oh, the no worker proposals? Well, okay. For everybody who doesn't know, and I'm not going to lie to you, now that we are at 500 million market cap, this is even a bigger thing, because when I did the calculations, we were at like 300 and some, and we had approximately $130 million worth of BTS in the worker pool, in the reserve pool, just to do whatever with, right? And now I suspect it's going to be probably over 250 million now that we're over 500 million market cap. And we're number 4 in terms of volume of all coins, just behind Litecoin. So with that said, we're getting noticed. We have all these funds. The one thing that is seen as the potential downside to BitShares right now by a lot of people is the fees, especially if EOS comes out and doesn't have and enables people to not have fees. The question is, because Bytemaster brought it up, that this was possible that we could literally make BitShares 3.0 and port it to EOS. And the way I look at it, what the hell else do we do with the funds? We hardly ever pay anybody for anything to do it for workers. We sometimes do for like absolute important things, but it's like our community has proven that it cares only about the absolute core essential taken care of. And because of that, we have this huge pool of funding. So the idea is, if we buy into EOS, since that would give us essentially a lot of bandwidth in the network to enable free transactions and such, we could create 3.0 BitShares over there, buy into the stake of EOS, become the de facto exchange for EOS, and have an upper hand above any competition that ever comes on, because we will be a huge stakeholder in EOS. Now, if we have a bunch of people from Ethereum who are saying, I'm planning on cashing out of all of my Ethereum to get EOS, and they come in and they see BitShares DEX on there without trading fees, and maybe adding fees in different cool places as we, to gamify it a little bit, we can be being the de facto exchange on EOS is going to be something big, right? And not only that, the other benefit is, even if we don't use a lot of volume on the exchange, BitShares could lease out the volume or the bandwidth that it doesn't use and still be profitable. So I see it, to me, as a no-brainer, but I am definitely interested in what the community here thinks.
I've never understood this no-fee thing. I just don't get it. One of the things
it's an illusion.
No, one of the things that gives BTS its value is that that people are always going to consume BTS because they have to pay fees with it. So as long as they're doing that, BTS maintains a certain value for that.
Ken, are you trying to talk, Ken? Okay. I can't say that I disagree, but I will say that, let's say we don't do it. EOS comes out. Somebody is going to build an exchange for them. It will have no fees. It will have everything going for it in terms of visibility that we would have given up on. So maybe fees aren't that big of a deal, but I feel very strongly that it will be just another straw that broke the camel's back. Because if a DEX comes out and says, we are the EOS DEX, and we bought into EOS and we have a lot more stake, well, they're going to get a bunch of people. They're going to have no trading fees. And let's face it, if a user gets to choose between no fees or fees, what are they going to choose?
What kind of fees are we talking about? Just trading fees or all fees?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I do understand where IntelliGuy's coming from too, because there's a reason for fees in some respects too, like maybe canceling fees. Canceling orders might charge a fee, things like that, to make it so, because fees can be used to ensure people will not game the system or mess with it as easily. But at the same time, if Johnny can go to BobbyDex, and every time that he trades on BobbyDex, and he just trades, that's all he does. He doesn't set up orders and cancel them or anything. If he can get those for free, and he sees that he's paying on another exchange, all things being the same, other than that, Bobby's going to choose the free one. You know what I mean?
No,
You know what I mean?
He's going to go to the exchange with the most liquidity, and just because you have less fees doesn't mean you have less liquidity. BitShares has a lot more respect. It has history. So you can build a brand new BitShares tomorrow and just say, hey, everybody, forget BitShares. Come over here because we just built a new one. It's going to take a while for people to like really respect and understand how it works, and to, you know, for them to earn a reputation and all that kind of stuff. So no, I disagree on that. But I really do believe that fees are important. Bots are already gaming the system.
I never said that they wasn't, right?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just reiterating my view is that I think that fees are important from a technical level as well as from a business level. It just, as soon as you remove fees in some respects, I think BTS goes down slightly.
Well, I'll still say you don't do it, somebody else will, and why leave it open? But with that said, does anybody else have thoughts?
Well, I agree that some fees could probably disappear altogether, but I agree with IntelliGuy that all of them certainly shouldn't. It shouldn't be a totally free platform. I agree that there's principles that we need to have in terms of running the network that I think some fees are important. For example, the referral program can't work without some type of fee. So lifetime memberships, very important. I think those fees should stay pretty high. I mean, not real high. It's really hard to keep on top of it given the market volatility. But you know, around $100 to $200 for all lifetime membership, I don't think is out of the question for the benefits that it gains you.
I actually think that if you make it so having a lifetime membership gives you no transaction fees on trade, that you're doing very well. And I want to make very clear that I'm not advocating against not having any fees, because like I said, fees can be used to create barriers to abuse, right?
Yes, indeed. That's a very good point. It's a carrot and stick kind of thing for incentives and disincentives.
However,
I understand the whole fees part. Like for me, who doesn't have a lifetime membership yet, it feels like every single move I do, there's a fee for.
Yeah, and the cool thing is, the part of the reason why we do that is because we want you to get a lifetime membership, right? So we could have it something like what IntelliGuy's saying, where you essentially you keep the fees, but then you make it so it's so damn close to being fee free to have a lifetime membership that you get all these different bonuses that really the referral program could make its money off of people buying a lifetime membership. I mean, for instance, Bob is going to be much more likely to pay, maybe $500 or $600 if he knows that over a course of a year he's going to use the platform so much that he would otherwise pay that anyway, and that it's worth him to get that. And because after a year he's going to start just saving all of his money. Yeah, but that's the thing, guys. Like, there are going to be, regardless of where we stand, I want to make it very clear: when EOS comes out, there are going to be people gunning to become the DEX for them. So we can have competition, that's great, but as a community with all these funds, I think EOS ownership, and I'm going to advocate and I'm going to push for it. So if you guys disagree, you're gonna have to go ahead and disagree, but I'm pushing for it, making sure that we have a huge stake in it. Because if we do, we can become that DEX.
One thing I'll say is, isn't it a little bit premature to talk about our involvement with? I mean, from a planning standpoint, it's not premature, but from the standpoint that we don't know how much it's going to cost, what it's going to take to become part of the EOS ecosystem yet, that's the level that it's premature. But we can talk about it as a possibility, and I think you're right, Fuzzy. I think we should look at it as a community involvement with that effort, because it's possible that there'll be enough people that want to do it that we'll have a strong contingency that builds the code to make that happen. But there'll be another contingent that says, no, I don't want to do it, and I'm going to keep going with BitShares as long as it exists. And maybe there'll be a split like Ethereum Classic and other. So we have the decentralized exchange of EOS, and we have another decentralized exchange for the classic BitShares. That's a possibility. Whether that's what happens or not, who knows? But it's something that we need to let the community to decide, and we don't have enough information right now to really know what it's going to cost and what's going to be the advantages for it to move over to EOS. But I'm for it. I think it's a good idea.
Well, we do know that the EOS white paper is out, and that it is an improvement upon graphene. So I would urge everybody, I haven't finished with it yet, but I would urge everybody to continue reading it. These are the types of things that are progressing. Like you said, there could be a split, but I'm going to tell you guys right now, if you go and you look at all these different projects, like Next is a good example. NXT is still doing pretty well. Ardor, which share dropped on it, is doing pretty well. They're going to have another share drop on NXT of another project. So they're following these things, and they're doing pretty well despite the fact that they have split community. Look at Ethereum Classic as another example, like you said. So the power of blockchains is that we can have various iterations that offer slightly different things and test them as well. The free market's going to do it. Are we going to pull our hands out, fill up our tanks with water, or are we going to let others? That's kind of how I see it. Now, other people will disagree with me, but that's my take on it. Do you guys have anything to talk about with this, or do you guys want to move on to the next topic?
I think with as many topics as we have, we should probably move on.
Yeah, well, all we really have right now is Hero, and to talk about that a little bit, and then one more topic that we'll bring in. So who said that they were going to talk about Hero? Was it you, Thomas?
Yeah, I basically would be willing to talk about it from the standpoint that it was a big deal, and we do see more marketing efforts, and I do want to bridge from the Hero, since Mogul is a part of that, into the scam nature that's being accused of the Mogul people, and probably by inference a Hero as well.
Fair enough.
Well, Matt Trainer is the marketer that started this Hollywood Hero whole effort and got a huge bunch of marketers and funds together to do the promotion in LA a couple weeks ago. So I was all on board with that, and I still am. I really think it's a good idea. But any marketer, I think, is going to be accused of being a scammer when you have a certain flair, a certain smoothness, a certain of pitching your products, which can be kind of cookie cutter in perception by the public, but it's all about perception. That's what marketing is. So people that have that reaction, I think it's a good reaction because it shows that they're looking. It shows that they're scrutinizing what the information that's coming across their eyes is, and that's something that so few people do. So people that are accusing the Mogul people of being a scam thing, I don't think that's fair. But on the other hand, I like to see it from the standpoint that if they're doing it intelligently and just saying, I'm not sure that makes sense. It's too smooth. It's too slick. You're trying to get my emotions hooked, and I'm resisting that because I can tell that that's not a good thing. I want to make decisions on a rational basis. So in that regard, the accusations are useful, but I just fear that it might be going to the wrong level, that people are getting the wrong impression of what Mogul is.
Yeah, well, Joey made a good point last week about it, and I do agree with it, and that is that it is very resource intensive for people to build VR platforms, and let alone just a VR game.
And not that. It's also the part about the economics and everything. So game development, VR being brand new, and economics, and there are only very few companies with the resources to be able to, and the experience to do that. So if a company comes along and that has never made a game before, doing all these three things as a first-time project, I'm very doubtful.
Yeah, and the thing is, in this space, let's face it, one thing that we have seen, and it's frustrating, I think, especially frustrating to those of us who take kind of the philosophy of we're going to take it slow and steady and build value and let that shine through. There's so much space for people who have flair just to go out and say, yeah, I mean, look at Ethereum, for example, right? Ethereum didn't even have anything going. Like, it had a yellow page, and it was all over alternative media that these people who talk about small cap stocks that turn big and all this stuff, and it was just pushed on everybody like it's the next big thing, and it's going to be the Bitcoin killer, when they only had like barely a yellow paper. It wasn't even a white paper, right?
Think about why they were so successful in doing this, because basically they were tapping into people's emotion that don't be left out of the next great big opportunity that you were left out of Bitcoin. Don't be the person that sits on the sidelines and waits to see what the next thing is. Get involved now, because Ethereum is going to take the world by storm. And so they capitalize on this fear that you're going to lose out. They capitalize on the opportunities that they're putting in front of you like a carrot, like, hey, you're going to really be a millionaire if you get involved with this. So it's an emotional appeal, but it's hidden behind other tactics, so to speak.
Okay,
that's why it connects.
This speaks so perfectly to what you just said about marketers. And this is precisely why, even though I know most of you remember whenever they told us, when they tried to make Beyond Bitcoin, they put us under the marketing section. I think we're still there on BitShares Talk. And I refused to be a marketer, because what marketers do, their job, quite literally, is to take the knowledge of human psychology, like you said, being able to manipulate emotions to make you not think rationally and to omit the things that are negatives that would keep you from buying. So quite literally, a marketer is a propaganda artist.
Yes.
So we have been always talking about how we need marketing and all that stuff, but at the same time, how philosophically bent have we been against propaganda? So it makes a lot of sense to me that our community has been very strongly for like grassroots type of like what we do, kind of just archiving our history. Because guess what? That history is starting to be looked at by almost 3,000 unique views a week now, and we're building just from our little community. So think about what we're doing, and I can't say that we've done it wrong now, because look at all these different projects that they came up burning bright and hard, but all the firewood's gone, right? They're going, oh my God, we've built things on a foundation that was too shaky because we were afraid of the market not liking it. And meanwhile, Dan and the crew have been upgrading the technology they use and not being afraid of doing it, because they knew that the foundation has to be solid. We got a lot of hell for that over time, but that's what's happened.
That's brilliant what you just said. I like that firewood analogy. Thanks very much for stating it that way.
Well, thank you for headbutting, but also like thinking about this stuff. This is what we are here for, right? Like that's what all of us weird nerds on the fringe come here to talk about transaction process every week.
It's kind of funny that the way you put it, Fuzzy. This strikes me as, well, then, Tom, why haven't you been a little bit more skeptical about getting involved with marketing? I mean, it's really funny that you kind of struck a nerve with me in bringing it back to the fact that it's propaganda. It is, but it serves a purpose. But is that purpose a twisting for me personally? Because I'm strongly about principles. So my involvement with marketing, I'll never be a passionate person about marketing, but still it's intriguing because the end that I'm trying to achieve is BitShares adoption, and I can see how the emotions are playing a very important role in doing that. But am I being an agent of manipulation in doing that? And I think the answer is yes. So it does offer a bit of caution from that standpoint that I'm looking at.
I think there's two different versions of marketing, one would be manipulation, the other one would be propaganda.
Very slight difference, because manipulation is still doing something where you're coercing people through some mechanism to do what you want them to do. But you're changing them. If you're persuading them, it's all persuasion. It's all a matter of perception. So it is a fine line. I'll give you that.
It's usually a mix between both. I mean, propaganda artists, let's face it, they use every tool in the toolbox, right? But I do see how you can divide them, Mr. Wang. But I kind of do say it. I kind of see it as every tool they have. Yeah, that's one of the tools they have in their toolbox, and they will use it, right? Like, if you got to show a mama crying to get somebody to do something, or you have to consistently tell them the same lie and repeat it over and over. There's a mixture of both, right?
Yeah, I'm personally witness to it right now.
Yes, and we all are, especially the more you care about something.
Repetition of a message is not a problem to get a point across if it's a truthful message. If there's lies in that message, then it's more of an evil intent. It's manipulation. So if you're just simply pounding in the same thing over and over again, so people will finally recognize it, no problem. If it's based on truth.
Exactly, and what will happen is over time people will see that that's the truth, right? And like with what we've had for our community, we have archived the hard times, the good times, right? We've created almost a soft power, like a community that actually gives a shit and has shared a common bond. So I kind of look at it as that's the best. Word of mouth advertising is the best, especially when you can make it so the people are doing it on their own because they want to, because they because they feel like they're a bigger part of something, that a part of something that's important, and kind of bigger than themselves. And that's kind of, I think, the best kind of version of marketing, the closest to not being quote unquote propaganda, because if people really believe it, you have soft power, and that's extreme. That's the only power worth having, right? Really, especially if you're one of those people who we call voluntarists and others like to call anarchists.
Yeah, that's a great point, Fuzzy, because I think marketing can be more than manipulation or an appeal to emotion. It can be just explaining, even if it's just in an analytical way, appealing to your logic about your project. And when you have something like that, like Steam, for instance, it's something that a lot of people like to talk about, word of mouth, which is some of the best marketing you can get.
Yep. When you turn other people into somebody who loves something and you make them passionate about it, go figure, you don't have to watch over them all the time and micromanage them, because you know that they're going to generally and naturally move toward what they're good at to help,
Yeah, naturally.
Huh?
Yeah, I just said naturally. Definitely.
So I guess, Thomas, go ahead.
One thing though, Richard, I agree with you, but one thing that has been rather apparent to me is that using the rational way to advertise a product isn't as effective, and that's the bottom line. Is why these viral marketing campaigns, and Matt Trainer is all about these viral marketing campaigns, why they're so much more successful at getting their products sold, their wares in front of the public, because they appeal to the emotions. But that in and of itself is manipulation, to be real honest with you. But if the information you're providing them into their emotions is based on a solid product with real merit, then maybe it's a good thing. I mean, it's such a gray area for me. I've got to work through this and think about the philosophy behind it, and whether or not it's a good thing to really be pushing for an emotionally connected way of marketing.
Well, it's true. I agree. That is something that's an important part of it as well. I mean, you can connect emotionally, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I don't necessarily call that manipulation. I don't think you need to connect emotionally with your marketing as well.
That's when it's most effective. But your point, the way you just said earlier, was that just conveying the truthfulness and the features about your product, that's important. That's an important element as well. But that doesn't sell very well. That doesn't usually that's not very effective marketing when you rely only on those tactics.
Agreed. You have to entertain. You have to sadly manipulate emotions to a degree. I mean, if you look at every commercial, pretty much every commercial you see, what do? They try to create a sense of urgency, a sense of urgency, or that you don't have something, or that you're scared, maybe that somebody's going to break into your house, or maybe I'm not a good parent if I don't buy this for my child. Maybe I'm going to have cancer if I don't take this new drug. Those are the things that they try to do. Is they try to attach to the strongest it's from the lizard brain, the strongest instincts, right? The most instinctual and base part of the human consciousness. They try to attach to those things because those are the things that almost bypass our logical, they do to a large degree. They bypass our logical and our analytical reasoning. So, for instance, everybody has a lizard brain. That's what they call it anyway. But that's what it is. Like, if you go out, if you've ever gone out and you let's say you're camping, and you, like, out of the corner of your eye, you see a stick that's kind of bent like a snake. Out of the corner of your eye, you don't sit there and say, "Oh, I wonder if this is a snake. Let me go down a checklist and look." You jump first, then you go and look if it's a snake, right? That's because of well, it's because of our evolution, because the fact that, hundreds and thousands of years ago, we needed that. And we still do to a degree, but now we can reason a little bit more. But still, even after that, you act first in those types of situations, and then you look with the logic afterwards. And that's really the key to what marketers like to hit on, to get you to act before you think. And analyze.
Another perfect example of that would be, sex sells.
Oh yeah. Yes, sir.
So it's, you really need to hit both to get those big investors. But I mean, you need to do both. I mean,
You're right.
Those are good points. Appealing to the emotion, to that instinct. I mean, that's something that you also have to do, of course.
Yeah, it's a mix. You're right. Effective marketing covers a whole spectrum. And I guess to bring it back to where we were going with Mogul is, I think in this space, especially after about 10 years, a lot of people are starting to get really tired of big flashy campaigns that flash in a huge spike and then, dissipate into crying sessions for bag hoarders.
Absolutely. And one of the reasons for that is because these flashy campaigns don't get to the substance of what makes their product worthwhile. And so it obfuscates the real value of the product. And so you get tired of not being able to see the real value. I get that way. I look at all the activity going on right now, and I think, what is a good investment out there? There's so many, and it takes so much effort to find something of real value out there.
Yeah,
people don't want to invest that time.
And also a lot of scams, and it's hard to really investigate all these people.
Yeah. Well,
one thing, the Mogul thing, I was okay with it as long as it was gamification of marketing. That was one thing. But as soon as we're talking about an actual game, and maybe it's because I was jaded. I came from the gaming modding scene a little bit, and just about every newbie that came along always was talking about how they were going to make the next multiplayer online RPG thing. And that's the first thing a noob will say. So if a company comes along and saying, we will be the next online multiplayer thing, and they have no experience at all in that scene, you really should doubt them.
Well, I'm going to tell you guys right now, I'm going to be creating a virtual reality sex club because sex sells. And it's just going to literally be a room with just, random people who want to join up and dance as a VR version of themselves. And it's going to just be very small, so it won't have much overhead, because apparently sex does sell. So maybe if we can do that, they won't think about the fact that it's a very tiny and silly project and doesn't really have any broad scope beyond that. What do you say?
To be honest, I'm pretty sure that if BitShares has value and a little anonymity, then sex will find its way to BitShares all on its own.
I don't know if Matt Trainer bought some whale shares inertia, but the way I look at it, did he buy Steam Power? Did somebody buy Steam Power? Because if somebody buys Steam Power, are we going to vet everybody who buys Steam Power, right? It's the same thing. If people understand how Steam works, there's no difference to buying Steam Power and powering it up yourself and buying a one-time use from a whale. Both can be abused equally, just like this rando whale thing. It can be abused because God knows what they're raking, right? There's a lot of stuff that can be. So I hope that answers the question.
Well, it's interesting because, any type of DPoS chain or even a proof of stake chain, how much stake you have is extremely important in terms of the power in the ecosystem.
Yes.
So that's true of BitShares. However, the more people that get involved, the harder it becomes to have a centralized point of control, because let's say that somebody came in with a huge amount of money, and in the instant that they bought the shares, they were the king. They were the one with the most power in the system. Other people are going to say, wait a second, I don't like what this guy is doing, how he's voting. I'm going to get a group of people together to counter that. So you amass proxies that will get all the others together, and combined you overtake his power. So, it's a community effort, but there is points of control that happen along the way. But I think it's a natural evolution to see how that plays out.
Well, in our experience, let's face it, what have we seen over the course of time with BitShares? Every time that we ask people to step up, well, I won't say every time. There's I'd say about 50% of the time, nobody steps up. And you can continue asking. And oftentimes we have. There have been many things that we've talked about getting done. Other people say they'll do them, don't get them done. Ultimately, leaders have to step up and say, I'm going to do something, right? And if I do something, I know it's going to get done. And then at the same time, when those people do that stuff, they get reputation from it, and people trust because they're doing stuff. And when they do stuff for a long period of time, they gain trust, which is like, I think Kyriakos, I think is his name, wrote a post about social capital. And that's what you're using, right? So,
Exactly.
so whenever you use this stuff, if you're using it for good reasons, then people are going to be behind it. Like, for instance, we're going to be putting whale shares into a bounty system to find people who are creating lots of sock puppets, upvoting them, a bunch of other things. We're going to be paying people in the Steemit ecosystem to kind of go through and find the people before we get really big who are abusing the system. So we can kind of have a list of them, right? There's going to be a bunch of different things that we can do with these things. So I hope that kind of answers the question. But ultimately, voting stake has to be how it is because we've talked in the past about it. And otherwise, you're going to have people just create sock puppets. And if it's one vote per person, whoever creates the sock puppets win. So making people at least put money down on it, right, is the way to go. Because then you literally have something at stake. So with that said, anything else that you guys would like to talk about today before we close up? I have one little factoid, but we'll get into that afterwards.
You mentioned BlockPay. Even if there's nothing to say, we should say that.
Oh, well, with BlockPay, once upon a time, made a post about it, what's going on his end, what he thinks is going on with it. I had heard good things that are coming, but I don't know what they are. Somebody just told me that the other day, and I was kind of like, oh, really? Why don't you tell me more, kind of. But it seems like maybe that's
Ken is here. Is any particular issue you want to raise, Ken, to the community, since you haven't been here all that much? And I know what's going on to a certain degree, but maybe you want to enlighten the community a little bit.
And don't feel obligated because we know where you're at, but it would be probably pretty helpful for us to know if you feel like everything's moving forward, at least in a good way for you guys.
Personally, I've always fallen in love with the name BlockPay and the brand. I don't want to see it switch to something else.
Ken's going to post a link for some other information, so that might be useful.
Okay, well, what we'll go ahead and we'll do is since he can't. Oh, okay. Are you going to be talking, Ken? We can go ahead and start the Beyond Bitcoin Hangout a little bit late. This is something that's pretty important. But while he's waiting to do that, I would like everybody to join up. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give this to you, this link. Sign this guest book, and it will. It's going to make things a lot easier on me because I'm having trouble organizing all of it now between multiple different chains and sites.
You there?
Yep.
Hey, what's up, man?
What's up, Ken? Real quick before you talk, I'm just going to let everybody know beyondbitcoin.com uphero, beyondbitcoin.uphero.com. Go there. The magic word is whale shares.
Okay, Ken, go for it.
Sure. Hold on just 1 sec. I'm going to grab those 2 links I mentioned.
He must have got a new mic. It sounds good.
Yeah, the mic.
Well, I'm on my laptop today, so this thing actually works, but the one in the monitor died, so.
It sounds very good for a laptop mic.
Well, it's a headset, too. It's just the earbuds, but good. At least it sounds decent. Hold on 1 sec, guys.
Some of us can type and speak at the same time. I don't happen to be one of them. It doesn't sound like you are either, Ken.
No, I'm terrible at that. That's why I kept clicking. Earlier when Fuzzy mentioned that, he's like, did you want to say something, Ken? And I was like, no. I was like, oh, yeah, this is the push-to-talk thing is my control key.
Yeah.
And so every time I would like control V to paste something, it would go click, 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 click.
Yeah.
Use the ones on the right, alt, right control.
Yeah, good idea. Because I'm always using my left hand when I hit control. So.
Yeah, I'm the same. So I use the right alt scroll because I never use the right one. By the way, try talking in Dutch while listening to an English podcast and typing.
You're an animal, Joey.
Yeah, actually, most of the time arguing in Dutch is even worse.
Okay, I posted a little link there. There was some concerns about the intellectual property. So if you guys are ready, I'll kind of explain how I've always done it over the years and how I've done it recently. as far as licensing and all this quote unquote intellectual property goes.
I think that would be very useful.
All right, so whenever I hire somebody new, I always run them through a series of questions in the very beginning of the interview. And I mean, above and beyond their technical qualifications and proof in their GitHub and all that kind of stuff. But it usually starts out to the effect of, is Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies legal in your country or where you live? Yes or no? Will you accept Bitcoin or BitShares for your payments? Yes or no? Do you agree that everything that you produce for BitShares Munich IVS will be the property of BitShares Munich IVS? Yes or no? Will you agree to also submit weekly invoices every Thursday or Friday? Because we usually have our meetings on Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays, and then I usually ping everybody on Thursdays and say, hey guys, happy Thursday, today's invoice day. Please make sure you get the GitHub updated with all your latest commits and send me your invoices for approval. And then I usually go through everything and I audit all their code and their invoices and make sure everything is accurate. And then if everything is accurate and correct, then I forward the invoices off to you-know-who for payment. So as far as the intellectual property goes, I also had, just recently, I had everybody, the developers on my different developer teams, to submit an email to me, and that's the link that I just posted. And that's one of them, just as an example of it, that everybody agrees, again, via email, that all the code that they're producing for BitShares Munich belongs to BitShares Munich IVS in its entirety, 100%. So, and they all replied to the email with agreed. So from their personal email accounts. In addition to that, when you install BlockPay or the SmartCoins wallet, for example, it's set, when you first install the application, you have to run through the EULA, the end user license agreement, and tap on I agree. If you notice at the bottom of that EULA, it lists BitShares Munich IVS as the owner and the copyright, and it has the address on there and everything, the current address for BitShares Munich. In addition to that, on the Google Play Store, it says BitShares Munich IVS is the owner. As you guys know, I MIT license everything open source because I want to encourage competition and have people fork our code and copy it and improve upon it and make their own versions of it and do whatever they want with it. We're trying to save the world here, man. And then the third place is on my GitHub page. I just mentioned the license files. And then on Google Play, if you notice at the bottom of the Google Play Store listings, it also mentions BitShares Munich IVS and the current address and everything like that. So on my GitHub, on every single repo, on Google Play Store, by chat and screen capture chats, and by email, I mean, it's very obvious that BitShares Munich IVS is the producer of all these apps that we're putting out. So I kind of hope that clears it up. Oh, the one other thing too was the BlockPay repo, you-know-who and I, we had agreed that we would keep that repo private for a little while until we got some traction for BlockPay. And he pays the bill for that private repo too. So for him to say that we're not giving it up or anything like that is BS, because there it is. I can send you guys screen captures of it if you want, so you can take a look at it. But we keep that repo private because I was kind of hoping that marketing would get some traction for BlockPay over the past year. But anyhow, that's. I guess you guys have any questions about the IP stuff for BlockPay or SmartCoins Wallet or CIPFS or Stealth or any stuff that we're releasing?
Well, I would say before we get into that, we are a little bit over on this Hangout, so maybe this would be a perfect subject for almost a Hangout of itself, or a large chunk of one, where you're kind of not just the after the fact type of thing, because this is pretty important for people who have these questions. But I suspect that we can't delve into it as deeply as people might want to ask the questions. And even though you might not be able to give direct answers with respect to what's going on with you, you may be able to. But even if you can't, it might be valuable information for people to see and know a little bit more about, because I'm sure you you know a lot about this right now with what's going on because it's so close to you.
Yeah, this is my love, man. BitShares is my life. So, I mean, I'm not in this for money. You guys know that. I'm in this to change the world, man. This is why I want to keep everything MIT, open source, licensed. And yeah, pretty self-explanatory.
The only problem that I can honestly say that I've ever had with you has been you taking on so much. So it's hard for me to really fault it, man. Especially in a place where we need people kind of taking on too much to even out a lot of people who are passive holders and waiting to figure out what crypto they care about or not, you know? So I appreciate what you're doing, and I appreciate that you're coming on here and giving us some information. I know that what's going on with our community is we're in a very tough spot too, because for a long time, we respected both parties, and you guys working together was a really shining gem for all of us. You know? So it's been a difficult thing to watch, but obviously the market is really pumped up with how our community is dealing with it. Otherwise, I don't know why we would be number 4 on volume and getting damn close to the top 10 again.
I know you want to get back to work to get this product completed and into the marketplace, Ken. So I'm all in favor of your efforts and have been for the longest time. So I want to commend your work and for you to stick up for the principles you believe in, because they're the same principles I believe in. And this is a very important situation for our community, because it could be divisive or it could be just the opposite. It could unite the core principles that we all got this thing started with. So I'm right there with you and hope that people really take this to heart and don't put it aside and say, let's let them take care of it and not worry about it until it's done. I mean, there'll be people that want to do that, but I think it's important to tune in to the drama that's going on because it's important. There's certain things that are involved here that really speak to what this community is all about.
The only comment I'd like to make is that there was about a 14-day silence period, it felt like, where we knew that there was a problem going on, but nobody could talk about it. That's incorrect on the way to handle something. The way to handle something is, yes, you can't talk about the specifics. What you can do is just talk to the community in general and say, I can't really mention that right now, and I do understand your frustration. My advice to you is just wait for more. You can still be presentable.
Yeah, don't hide. Don't hide.
Right. And it's the hiding that makes the mystery of everybody going.
Yeah.
So when we've got two sides at the moment, when we hear from both sides, you can kind of hear it in their voice or the way that they're talking or what they're doing. Either way, the public is going to follow whoever handled this the best. So I don't care what the issue is or who's going to be right in the end. I just care about the way that people are caring about what the public is dealing with. So that's all I want to say.
I think really what pissed him off is that I did not want to give up my 51%. I gave him 49%. To put his face out there and get the marketing going and to get people using them products. But it just didn't turn out that way, and now they're trying to get a hold of my 51%. I just don't want to let it go, man. It's like I want to keep building stuff, and then cutting off my pay and all this stuff. It's like this is just over the top, man. I mean, amongst all the other stuff they're trying to do to me, it's just I've had enough, man. I just want to get back to work. I've told them numerous times too that I don't care about the money, man. I just want to have a passive income for my family and to just build stuff. To just be left alone to build stuff. That's what I enjoy doing. I mean, this has been my core competency for nearly 30 years.
Ken, no matter what happens, I think you're going to get support from all of us for you to build stuff. So I will say that. I wish that I could give you, I wish I could say, you and Chris and any other parties, this Constantine guy, I wish that I could say that they're going to, that you guys are all going to come to this perfect utopic kind of decision that everybody, makes out and walks away happy. But I have this sneaking suspicion that's not going to be allowed to happen. So I want to say, I just want to reiterate kind of what Intel guy said. Don't hide. People do worry about you, and I've even had people kind of message me. Well, yeah, but we worry about everybody who's busting their butts in this ecosystem and has proven themselves, or or at least has tried. But the thing is, we need to make sure that that there's no reason to hide from us, especially. You're going to get support, man.
Well, I'm kind of in a corner at this point. I mean, what else am I going to do? I got to, now that I got this microphone working again, I see no reason why I can't start coming on Mumble again and help you out a little bit, Fuzzy. I mean, you got the biggest heart on the planet, man. So if we can give you a hand too, that'd be great. So I'm not going anywhere, man. My whole thing is I just want to build stuff and just leave me the fuck alone, please. God damn, enough is enough.
Well, it's funny because every story that a hero emerges from, they have a bunch of things that they have to overcome before that story really wraps itself up and ties it up with that pretty bow, right? So I look at our history and the ups and downs and all the waves that we crash into like friggin' wild men and never give up as our guarantee. Right.
Oh, you know what? Let me give you just a quick little update about Stealth too while I'm here, because I haven't started my weekly updates again yet. The thing with Stealth was we spent so much time on the libsnark thing and converting Rust code to C++ and all this. Oh, what a nightmare! And then we could not get the transactions to process faster than about 40 seconds or so on average. And I wasn't happy with that, because for the BitShares chain, that's like dog slow. So forget about 40-second transactions. And then right before my pay got cut off, the lead dev for Stealth had discovered confidential assets, the new CA technology, and we did a bunch of R&D on that and did some digging and find out if we could find any FUD on CA, and we couldn't find anything negative about CA, and neither could I. So different phishing, different connections that I have too, I couldn't find any bad news about CA. So I said, okay, then that's a great idea, let's do that. Let's switch and stop messing around with this libsnark stuff and switch over to CA. So, and not only that, but the cool thing about CA technology for Stealth is the fact that we can probably have it done, at least the way it looks now, in less than a couple of months, because they're just now getting caught up again with the last week or so. And we got to strip out a little bit of code too that we had for libsnark, but that shouldn't take too long, maybe another week or so for that, and then that's done. And CIPFS is done more or less. We're just adding a couple of little things to CIPFS, because CIPFS is going to provide the secure backups for Stealth as well. So you guys can check my GitHub at least every week. We're always uploading more stuff to my GitHub page. And as you can see, it's all MIT open source stuff too, so that it can be constantly audited. And MIT licensed to BitShares Munich IVS, of course. Yeah, we should have the testnet up. We have our own testnet, which should be going up as soon as possible, though, too. So trust me, man. I mean, I want Stealth so bad, like so bad. So don't think that we're delaying or anything like that with Stealth. And now that Stealth is being privately funded, thanks to Once Upon a Time to helping us out to get that project moving again. So now it's on a very, very high pace again. So at least Stealth is moving again. So anyway, I just want to give you guys a little update about this. So we're pretty excited about it.
Well, I will say this. Thank you for coming on and talking about it. And thank you to everybody who joined today. One thing I will leave with you, Ken, is if I'm sure you remember this, but whenever you first started out on Steam posting about the things that you were doing and giving updates, you've made pretty dang good money just from that, because you have a lot of support from whales who know that you're always digging and trying to get stuff done. So your updates really are a great way of providing evidence that you're getting stuff done and also getting paid. And I will gladly give you whale shares tokens and the token that I'm creating with my own token to upvote any of your content, and for others to upvote it.
Love you, Fuzzy. Thanks, man.
Well, you're welcome. I just urge you to really document that stuff, because you'll get paid really well, man. And if people complain from Steam, I'll personally say something, because the fact of the matter is they're already considering taking the DEX, a lot of the DEX code that we're using for BitShares and using it for Steam too. So obviously these things are beneficial to all chains that choose to use them. So if Steam gets stuff out of what you're building in the future, then you getting paid for it just makes sense, even if it starts out on BitShares and is tested there before it goes elsewhere, right? Those are also extremely
I got
valuable.
tons of stuff I want to build for the Steam chain too.
Yeah, and a lot of this will work together, right? So with that said, just keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind, because right now, Steam is at a huge market cap. It's like 600 million something, the last I checked. So we can pay for good people to do stuff. And dude, you're one of the perfect candidates for that.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
With that said, guys, thank you for joining up this week. We will see you every week at the same bat time and same bat channel, which is 2 p.m. UTC on Fridays on the Mumble server. I want to remind everybody that we have a Whale Shares Discord that's popping up. And we are going, and Fuzzy now has DKP, thanks to Dan Larimer, giving us Steam, because, let's face it, a long time ago, I said brownies were just not good enough for DKP, and he went out and created Steam for us. So I messaged him the other day. I said, thanks, Dan, for finally giving me the opportunity to create DKP. He kind of laughed, and here we go. We're doing some amazing stuff, and I've now, the last calculation I did, our upvotes per year are going to be well in the $450,000 mark that we can give out in upvotes. So it's time to build the amazing guild that we've been working on this entire time. Now, with that said, see you guys next week.